Hi everybody, it's Aj here and we're playing some Railway Empire. This is a post-production voiceover recording, and in this task I want to retackle the cattle drive because I know I can do a lot better, and hopefully we should get a present rating this time through. I say we should, this is post-production, we do get a present rating this time through, and we actually complete this one very quickly in I think it was 4 years and 1 month total time. Now, my strategy here is to first of all work towards that task of connecting up, I think it's 400,000 people to the rail network, and that means growing my empire, or your empire, as quickly as you can, and hitting as many cities as you can, and always making sure that the cities you're going between, from one to the next, try and get them all to be that magical meat industry supplying a beer industry, and vice versa. Now, oftentimes what I will do is, once I've got a good number of cities connected, is then look at bringing in the raw materials for that city. So, for example, Pierre, that has a beer industry at the start. So normally I would, once I've got a good number of stations down and making some profit, I would start shipping the wheat into that city to supply its industry and help the population grow. Now this time through I don't do that. I do supply all the meat industries, or most of the meat industries, because this scenario, I'm sure you're aware, is all geared towards the meat production and the shipment of the meat. So it makes sense to, make sure those industries are well supplied and well stocked. Plus we make money on it, and in the end we end up going through and buying up a lot of the either the cattle ranches themselves or the meat production centres themselves, and that just adds to our, our company value, increases how much money we're making each month and what have you. So that's basically the strategy here. I think I head all the way south. You go from Sioux Falls to Pierre to Rapid City to Cheyenne to Denver, and then I think it's down to Amarillo. Then I think it's Wichita back to Omaha. I probably missed one or two out there. I know at some point Wichita at the start of the playthrough, its default industry is the furniture making industry. Well, that's fine, but it doesn't really help us in terms of our targets and our goals. So what I try this time is actually purchasing the furniture production centre, scrapping it, and then replacing it with a meat production business, because Wichita is just to the south of Omaha. Obviously Omaha is the final destination where we need to ship all this cattle and this meat. So with them being relatively close by, to me it made sense to put a meat industry in there, and then we could get that fresh meat shipped up to Omaha. Obviously we also ship it down from the north, from Sioux Falls, and towards the end we just link up quite a lot of the cities straight to Omaha. But for now it's all about the expansion. So we've just connected up to Cheyenne. We've got the trains running, so now we need to bring it down and we'll connect into Denver. Again, this is a beer meat connection, so you're going to make good profits, which is going to help you expand even further and even faster. And you play this one right, and very quickly money becomes a non-object. You're making that much money, it's ridiculous, you cannot spend it. So yes, this is all the preliminary work. Obviously the time limit for the 400,000 people connected onto your network is pretty quick. It's pretty short. You don't have much time to do it. I mean, what does it say there? 1852 if you look down at the bottom. So we're at 120-ish at the moment, so over a quarter of the way there. But we still need to keep growing outwards, keep expanding. This initial part is just a lot of waiting around while we get the money together to pay for the trains or the lines or this, that and the other. But as I said, eventually the money does become a non-issue, and you do start you're basically printing money, and I couldn't spend it as fast as I was making it, and that's with upgrading industries, laying down a load of trains between the cities and the industries, buying up industries and expanding them as quickly as I can. So what we're doing here is just looking around to see where to connect to next. And I was toying with the idea of going even further out to the west, to some of these cities here like Miles City and so forth, but I forgo that idea, and the next thing I'm going to do here is actually connect up to Omaha, so we can start bringing that meat down into Omaha. Now the meat shipment, the final target goal is to ship 1,000 cartloads of meat into the city. So that's the big one you have to work towards there. So that's why it's good to get it started early. Then at least you're chipping away. You're not going to make massive inroads into that total straight away, but you are making a difference, and it is worth doing quickly. And you'll thank yourself later when you don't have such a huge final target to shoot towards in the mad rush and a mad dash once everything else is set up. So we're just letting the money build up so we can drop these tracks down, and then we'll do the usual thing of having dual tracks all the way through, and then start running our trains on this line, and we'll get them to prioritise the shipment of meat, just to help us reach that goal a little bit sooner. Got hit by 2 negative press reports there at the same time. Didn't make much difference. Yes, obviously it does affect your passenger numbers between your cities, but primarily we're thinking about the freight here. So a reduction in passengers, while not ideal, because obviously it's going to, you lose some revenue from that, it isn't the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. As long as that meat's still shipping, and as long as the beer and meat is shipping between the two, between all your cities, then you're good. That's all you need to focus on for this one. So now what we want to do is connect to the cattle ranch up in the north, and run a line down from that cattle ranch to the city of Sioux Falls. Another one of the early objectives is to transport 40 head of cattle into Sioux Falls. Now, obviously, a fully loaded train carries 8 carts or wagons behind it. So a little bit of basic maths tells you if you want to transport 40, a way to guarantee that early is get this line put down and have 5 fully loaded trains heading from that cattle ranch down into Sioux Falls. Once all 5 of them have finally hit Sioux Falls and unloaded their freight, and that's that objective met, and you can then press forward and start focusing on the other ones, such as meat production and meat shipments. Again, just having a quick look around to see where to expand to next. I think at this point I actually yes, I'll go ahead and get a station in Fargo. It's got a beer industry in there, and obviously Sioux Falls is a meat producing city, so these still be complementary. They'll help each other grow, and that growth is important because you want to hit that 40,000 target as quickly as you can. So a lot of these lines between these cities, in the end, they're relatively inconsequential, as it were, in the end game. However, in this early phase, they are vital. They do stimulate your economy. They help the cities grow, and obviously you're getting that population boost each time. And it's just all counting towards hitting that 400,000 figure. It does seem a daunting task when you first see it, and you think, how am I going to connect 400,000 people in, I think it's 2 years, 3 years? It's quite easily done. It is, but you do just have to expand, expand, expand straight off the bat. Oftentimes when I used to play, I would focus first on getting this this cattle industry connected and start shipping this cattle down to Sioux Falls. Instead, this time, obviously, we tried this method, and yeah, it works. So, my advice, if you would like it, is to focus on hitting as many cities as you can, looking for those beer meat connections all the time, and having at least 4, maybe even 6 trains running between each of the 2 cities on the tracks. It just you'll be thankful for that later. Your economy is just unstoppable. You hit that thingy, and at this point we get this cattle industry up for sale. So I'll go ahead and take it. I don't need it right now, but it is something that will come in, very handy later on. One of the other objectives is to connect to all 4 of the cattle ranches that exist on this map. Obviously, that's one of them. Now that we own it, we are going to make money off it when we start connecting. And as I said, at some point, I don't think it's, well, in the not too distant future anyway, I do go ahead and set up that meat industry in Wichita after scrapping the furniture industry. Obviously, with that cattle ranch very close to Wichita, it turns us big profits. So now we've got a bit of money, so we can afford to increase the number of trains that we have running between our city connections. We started off with, I think it was 4 per connection, and now we just upgrade most of them to 6 per connection. Obviously, those trains are going to help generate that little bit extra money. So we're up to just shy of 175,000 people connected onto the network. I think it was 171. So we're approaching the halfway mark for that initial objective. Now it is only a bonus objective, it's not a compulsory one. If you don't manage to do it, it will not fail this scenario, but it's worth doing. A, because it helps you get a better score at the end, and B, because you have to follow this quick city-to-city connection, this rapid growth of your network, you get the money from it as well. You make a lot of money off all these cities and all these trains that are running between these cities. So it is worth pursuing because it sets you up in a very strong position as you're heading towards the mid and late part of this scenario. So now we can set these trains running to Sioux Falls from the cattle ranch, and like I said, 8 is the maximum of carts you can have, so 5 fully loaded trains will hit that 40 head of cattle target. So we get them started, and it's not head of cattle, it's wagon loads of cattle, I suppose, but you know what I mean. So we go ahead and copy them 5 times. Now once all 5 of them, as I said earlier, hit Sioux Falls, that's that objective taken care of. Obviously the cattle are also going to start feeding the meat industry in Sioux Falls. That's going to help us produce more meat. Obviously the more meat we're able to produce, the quicker we're able to ship it to the city of Omaha, start hitting that objective as well. Now one of the other tasks as well, and I'm not focusing on this at the minute, I'm just getting this line set up, but one of the other tasks is to actually produce, I think it is 20 loads of meat in a week. Now that's got to be produced by your industries, so you need to start buying up these meat production centres when you can, and you need to start expanding them. I can't remember how many I've finished up with, but a lot of them where possible, we're fully expanded. Obviously, that does depend on the city size. So every time a city would grow, it is worth getting the money together to expand that industry within that city. It increases your production. Obviously, you make more profits. You can ship more cattle there, so your cattle runs are making more money. If you're on the cattle ranch, you're making more money there as well. Now, obviously, you will need to think about upgrading your cattle ranches as well, because the increased demand soon starts to outstrip the production of your cattle ranches. So you need to make sure they're keeping pace as you're upgrading your meat factories. So now that's the line to Fargo set up. As I said, it's a bit of a, I wouldn't say it's a throwaway line. It does make money, but it's not, this entire scenario is not hinging on this line. It's just another city connected. It's another city that's going to grow and help Sioux Falls grow. So, yeah, it's worth doing. So now we're going to head south into Wichita. And we're going to connect up to that station we had in Omaha. Now, because obviously the General has a station in Omaha as well, we can't place a second one down because it's a max of 2 per city. So it's a case of expanding our station and just swinging it around and then hooking it up to Wichita. That creative accounting tech can be very useful on this one because it increases your industry profits by 15%. So your meat factories or whatever industries you happen to own, whether it be meat or the cattle ranch or even the beer making industries, if you went down that route, I'm not sure why you would except to make more money. But regardless, your industries are now 15% more profitable. Obviously that's extra money for you. So you're not waiting around as much, so you can start expanding more aggressively. And this one really is about aggressive early expansion. This train line glitched up a bit here. I'm not sure what happened. It seems to have created a subterranean bridge, which I suppose you would call a tunnel. And rather than, maybe that line would have been okay to run trains on. Maybe it was just a graphical glitch. But I didn't want to risk it, so we just went ahead and relayed this track to Omaha. And just made sure that this time that glitch wasn't present. And then we put down the return line. There you go, the track's actually visible this time. Which is always, a handy thing. Now this scenario playthrough, I think it's one of the few playthroughs that I've done where I didn't actually hit any of these connection bonuses or new industry bonuses or express line bonuses. None of them fell, in line with my strategy. So I tried to stay focused, and I didn't want to deviate too much from the plan that I had. So, I just didn't bother with them this time around. Didn't really cost me anything. I don't feel like I lost out by not hitting these pop-up bonuses. I mean, they are nice. I think, this time I didn't hit them, and I still had a very successful campaign playthrough. So that's the standardized components technology now unlocked, which reduces the price of your locomotives. So there we go. Our next port of call is to head down to, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. It would be Raton? Rayton? I think it's Raton. That rings a bell. Well, regardless, we connect up to that city and we link it up to our station in Denver. Obviously we need to expand our station in Denver, so we'll get the track prepared, and then we will expand our station to give us an extra platform, and then we can hook up to Raton from Denver. That's another beer meat connection. It's going to make us money, it's going to help them both grow. So, you know, it's a double whammy. You're getting the profits from the trains running between the two, and the growth plus the actual connection itself is taking a chunk out of the target of 400,000 citizens connected to your network by 1852. I think it's 1852. It might be 1853. I can't remember. So now we just start the trains running. I think we go for 4. Like that Sioux Falls Fargo line, this ends up being a relatively unimportant line in the grand scheme of things, but it's one of them what's ticking away in the background and it's making you money. So from Raton we then head down to Amarillo. Amarillo has a meat industry and a cattle ranch just outside, so there's potential here. Obviously we need to connect up to all these cattle industries, so it's worth heading this way. And I'm just playing around here seeing how to scale this little cliff. In the end I decide to scrap that idea and just follow the river, lay the track alongside of the river where it's a little more forgiving, the terrain, and then just shoot north into the city of Raton. Interestingly, in this playthrough I don't actually connect to any other rural business except a meat industry, so I don't connect to any wheat production farms, no logging industries, no milk, all the stuff that you'd usually connect to help your cities grow. Instead I just stick to beer meat and then supply the meat industries, and that does prove to be more than enough, more than adequate to get our cities growing and to hit that that target of 400,000 population across the network. So now we get the trains running between Raton and Amarillo. That's just increased the power of our locomotive. So what was that? Just under 300,000 people now. So from Amarillo we branch out to Oklahoma City. It's another beer meat connection, and then once we're in Oklahoma City, I think it's around about this point, once this line's up and running, that we go ahead and purchase the furniture making industry in Wichita and replace it with a meat industry. Obviously that's helping our overall scenario goal, but it's also going to help Oklahoma City grow a little bit faster, and because you've now set up a beer meat line, Wichita is also going to grow a bit faster. Obviously this is crucial to that objective I keep referring to, the one where you have to set up 400,000 people onto your network. All this waiting around does become a thing of the past very shortly, and yeah, once it's all set up you really are just printing money. It is, frankly, it's quite ridiculous. And bear in mind, I don't know if you noticed at the start of this episode, I didn't actually mention it, but if you're eagle-eyed you will have noticed that the AI level is actually set to very hard. That obviously gives you a bonus at the end, but it also makes the AI player a lot more aggressive. They expand more quickly, they have more money, and their construction costs are greatly reduced. But I must be honest, the difference was never noticeable in this scenario. Like, I didn't notice the general any differently to any other AI, even on normal, when I've played this scenario through before. I mean, once it came to buying up some of the meat industries, I really expected him to do what they usually do, and enter a bidding war where it was driving the price up from say 300,000 to 750 plus. That just it doesn't happen. He never bid once, which was quite amusing to experience. I'd braced myself to have bidding wars for everything I wanted to buy. Just never transpired. Never turned out that way. Okay, so from Raton, we're heading now to... Is that Grand Rapids? I didn't quite catch the name there. Dodge City, I do beg your pardon. You have to forgive me, my US geography is not the greatest. So again, this is a beer meat connection. Extra growth, extra money. You're benefiting twofold, worth doing. So making good progress towards our objectives. It really is a case of more of the same, please, as far as that is concerned. Obviously, a lot of the growth is, I wouldn't say it's technically exponential, but it does snowball. You do start to make faster and faster and faster progress as you start to progress further and further into the scenario. So that's yet another line set up. That's going to start making us some decent profits. As you can see, our money's starting to accumulate at a very rapid pace now. And it's at this point, I believe, that we massage the bond market to increase our bond value. And then we go ahead and purchase that furniture factory that's situated in Wichita, so we can set up a meat industry in its place. As I said, I wasn't expecting to bid on this one necessarily, so I left it open just in case, because there's been times when I've missed a rival bid come in because I'm not paying attention. So we kept it open, but regardless, we won the auction and we got the meat industry set down, and then we go ahead and link up to that cattle ranch that we purchased, that we invested into about 10 minutes ago. So that's now going to start making us profit. Obviously before that it was making us trickle profits, but wouldn't be making much, if anything at all, actually, come to think of it. But it's times like this, once you've got your tracks between all these cities set up and you're starting to branch out into the industry business, you really do start making obscene amounts of money. And that I believe that's the case now. Once this is all set up and running, yeah, it's very profitable, very lucrative. Truth be told, I probably put too many trains on that line. I don't think it needs quite that many, but I went for overkill. Wouldn't be the most efficient way to do it, but well, it didn't hold us back, that I ever noticed anyway. So we're now linking Oklahoma City to Wichita. Obviously that's now a beer meat connection, so it's gonna, as I've said many times already, make you some good money, encourage growth, so you're getting dual benefits. So we've now gone in a full circle around the map almost. Obviously excluding a few cities in the extreme north and west. And I actually don't believe I hook up to any future cities now. I think that's my final city linked up. Obviously at some point I do purchase the General's company, so I inherit his connections. But I don't lay any myself. So what's our target there? 370,000 is where we're currently at. And that was increasing quite rapidly. So I think it's fair to say that objective is pretty much done. Now I'll start looking at how much it would cost to buy him outright. It was 7 million. When I set my mind to it, which happens fairly soon, I do buy him out pretty quickly. Now here you see, I would have expected him to either bid because he wanted it or bid to drive up the price, but nothing. He doesn't react. Obviously says there, don't you find it surprising that nobody else has placed a bid? Yes, I found it very surprising. Very surprising indeed. So we're approaching the half an hour mark. I'm going to leave this as a full episode. It's about an hour long, which is it's a bit long, but it's not too bad. But yeah, we're at the half an hour mark for this playthrough, and we're in an extremely strong position to push on and smash it out the park. Which, spoiler alert, does happen. So now I'm just hooking Dodge City up to, I think it runs up to Omaha. So we could make even faster progress towards that 1,000 wagon loads of cattle. Now this line does cause a problem later on. It does become a huge bottleneck. And in the end I do go ahead and actually relay this track once I've bought out the General. Nice email pop up there, thank you. So now we start running the trains between Dodge City and Omaha, prioritising meat and making sure they're fully loaded, just to make sure we're getting maximum usage out of our trains. Same again in Dodge City, we want to make sure they're prioritising the meat and they're only leaving when they've got a full load. Obviously that can be a combination of meat, other materials, passengers, mail, but as long as I've got 8 cars. So there we're at 395, so that objective is now taken care of. Okay, I'm just going to skip this bit because all I'm doing now is fiddling with all my trains to make sure the meat's priority. So I'll just stop it here. I'll fast forward this little section and then we'll pick it up once this is all completed. Okay, so just finishing off editing those trains there after accelerating time, so you'd have to sit and watch that go through. I don't know how quick the pop-up notification was under the edited time, but during that time we did hit that 400,000 population goal, so that's now done. Again, this is a time when I expected maybe he would have driven the price up or purchased it himself, but no, nothing. And as you see now, our money really is just accelerating. So let's go ahead and put some more trains on that line. A lot more trains on that line. Now if you want to be really efficient, what you could do, instead of having all your cattle trains head into that one platform, so you get a bottleneck on the way into the platform, you could link them up to several platforms and go through a wee bit of micromanagement and set each one to hit a specific platform. That would reduce your bottleneck and it would keep your cattle flow much more efficiently. So your meat industry is producing at a much higher, utilization rate, rather than hovering between 0 and 25%, which is what happens to me. So if we'd have done that, we could have maybe finished this that little bit quicker, but we still got the time bonus we needed to get to the present rating, so it wasn't a great concern in the end. So just going ahead and expanding a number of our industries now. We just hit another target, which I think is a ship 100. Was it the meat production? I don't know which one that relates to. We'll see in a second, I'm sure. Okay, so that's another objective now ticked off. And yet another objective ticked off. I think at this point the objectives remaining are to purchase 30% of the General's Company, purchase the General's Company outright, produce 20 loads of meat per week, and ship 1,000 loads of meat into Omaha. So we're just hooking up Kelly Ranch, which is a cattle ranch to, I can't even remember the name of the city, to Dodge City. And this will be 3 out of 4 of the cattle ranches now connected. Obviously that is another objective that I forgot a few minutes ago, where you have to connect all 4. The final one being in the south next to Amarillo. And I think after this is connected, we do go down there and collect that one as well. Yes, here we are. Look, there's a cattle ranch, there's Amarillo, so we want to expand the station to give us a spare platform. And then we go ahead and start shipping the cattle into Amarillo. There we go, that's that task now signed off. And just get the trains put in place. It's a short run, so we should stick to 2 for now. Just spend some of our R&D points. So we now have quicker turnaround times when the trains are undergoing maintenance, and increased freight prices for our trains. See that ranch can no longer keep up with demand. Its current workload is at 100%, and the trains are still waiting to be loaded. So start to look to expand some of these ranches and industries now. So we just get the money together to afford the expansion. I think it was $600,000 to expand the ranch to level 3. So that's gone from 4.8 to 9.6 head of cattle being produced per week. Obviously that's going to reduce the waiting times on that platform as the train's waiting to be loaded up. Can't expand that meat industry any further, it's already at level 2, but we can expand this one if we wanted to. That meat industry is fine, that's fully loaded with 62 cattle waiting to be transported, so we don't upgrade that one at this time. I'm just going to go ahead and put some more trains between Dodge City and Omaha. Again, this is just working towards that 1,000 wagons of cattle being shipped. As you can see, this is the bottleneck starting to build up now at this merge point and in and around the station. So now we clear off our pre-existing bonds and issue new ones. At this point, I believe we start to buy out the General's company, starting off with, I think it's around about 45% of his company we buy right now. So I think I was toying with the idea of waiting for 50%, got bored of waiting, so I dropped the percentage down to, I think it was 45, thereabouts. But regardless, that's a large chunk of his company to buy in one. Yeah, there you go, look, 45%. So that's now achieved that 30% ownership goal. Now we just need to buy up the remaining 55% and put him out of business. And then we can solely focus our attention on meat production to get that 20 units of meat a week, and meat shipments to get the 1,000 loads of cattle meat shipped into Omaha. So that bottleneck is getting worse. We don't alleviate it at this point. We do that after the General's been eliminated from competition. And the way I do that is I redraw the line from Dodge City to Omaha to instead start using his train station that he has established there. Obviously I can't do that until I own his station, so we just wait on there. Put a couple of museums down in some of the cities, that's to help growth. Just taking that tech for the mail price increase. Not that I necessarily want the bonus from that tech, but I want to start working towards some of the better freight trains, such as the Baldwin 10-wheeler or the Consolidation B. To do that, we need to unlock some other tech that precedes it. So now we're getting very close to the point where we just gobble up his company. I think we buy some more shares first. I think we buy another 40, maybe even 50% of his stocks. Yeah, we go for 40. We'll wait for the money to build up for 40, if I remember correctly. I mean, it's 2.4 million, and we're there now. So that's now us at 85%. So to merge out right now, it would cost us just over $1 million. As you can see, our money increases at quite an impressive rate now. So hitting that $1 million mark to merge outright isn't a problem. Okay guys, so I've just cut away for a bit there, because all I was doing was just literally staring at my money building up while I was waiting to get the money to merge with his company, which wasn't great footage to watch. So I've cut about 20-30 seconds out there. So now we've purchased his company, now it's time to I take a moment to decide what to do with his infrastructure, and in the end I do elect to keep it in place, because that way we can just use his existing tracks and platforms for our own benefit. So that's now the competition eliminated from this scenario. Despite being rated or set to very hard difficulty, I didn't find them to be challenging whatsoever. So now I'm just going to go ahead and remove some of his tracks so I can set up my own. And this is where we work on alleviating this massive bottleneck that we've got by diverting these trains into this new station that we now own in Omaha. Eventually we do change it so it's one continuous line from Dodge City to this new station, but we don't want to do that yet because we have trains still waiting on that little on that stretch to head into the original station, and we don't want to lose the cattle that they're transporting, so we let them clear off first before we put it on as a full uninterrupted line with no switches. Okay, at this point I go through and adjust all these because they now need to be set from the original Omaha train station to the new Omaha train station, which takes a while. So I'm just going to cut away here, guys, and I'll bring it back in once this tidy up has been completed. Okay, so just finished off adjusting those into station Omaha 1. Like I said, we'll just wait for the trains on the original track to clear before we remove that and rearrange it again. So now what we start doing is using his network to start transporting cattle from Kelly Ranch into the meat industry in Denver, which we go ahead and purchase and expand. Once we've got the cattle heading into Denver, we then set up a load of trains heading from Denver on his network that he laid straight through to Omaha, which obviously helps ship more and more meat that little bit quicker, which helps us get that time bonus and complete this in a pretty decent time at the end. I think it was 4 years and 1 month it took me, which is not a bad effort at all. Now we have issues here because I forgot to reset the one-way signal when I put that switch on. It takes me a while to realise this as to why is this happening, and then I pick up on it, and once I put the stop signal on that on the direction signal, it all starts flowing once again. Well, I say flowing, it's obviously log jammed, but they aren't they're free to move to an extent, shall we say. There it is, that's the stop sign I missed, so now things start moving freely once again. So I'll just go ahead and connect his line up into Omaha, so that way the trains from Denver can run into Omaha. I also go ahead now and, well, once this is done anyway, once these meat trains are set up, we go ahead and delete a lot of his track out that we're not going to use, make some room for ourselves, so we can start bringing meat into some of the other cities, and then start running, cattle into some other cities, and then running the meat from those cities into Omaha, keeping them on their own line to try and prevent build-ups and traffic jams in and around the platforms as they're waiting to be unloaded and repaired. So again, just more industry expansion at this point. So this is what I mean, where I said earlier you could probably be more efficient by have a lot of these trains head into different platforms with some switches. Obviously I didn't do that, and as you probably saw there briefly, we had a lot of trains queued up outside of Sioux Falls waiting to go in. It's not ideal, and I don't remember my reasoning for not fixing it, but I don't fix it. So now I'm just checking how much meat I'm producing a week, letting it count up, and it gets to about 10, so about halfway. So we need to expand our industries even further. Yeah, just over 10, 10.13. So now it's a case of, I think I purchased a couple more meat industries and get them expanded to their maximum available size. But first, this is where we go ahead and clean up some of his tracks that we're not going to be using, such as the ones to all these rural businesses, which we don't even set trains for, we just get rid of them and ignore them. Once we hit that 400,000 mark earlier on in the episode, city growth wasn't a concern for us anymore. Yeah, obviously if you grow your cities you can expand your industries even larger, but in the end it didn't make a difference. So that's cleared up a lot of room, so I think what we do now is bring a line from Kelly Ranch to, I don't know the name of the city, you'll have to forgive me. But we run this line up to the north. Is it Rapid City? I don't know. I'm probably making a tit of myself by saying that. North Platte. Platte. However that's pronounced. I do apologise for butchering that town name, no doubt. But yes, we do start now running cattle into that city, so we can feed its industry. I think we buy its industry as well, because that helps us produce more meat per week. So at the minute, as you saw, at 10.13, we need to be at 20, so we need to double our meat output per week. And obviously it's also going to help count towards shipping the meat into the city of Omaha, because we have a straight shot from the city into Omaha, and it's nice terrain around here. It's nice and flat. There's no mountains to have to skirt around. So now we set up the line that is going to run from the city into Omaha. At this point I realised I goofed up on that platform allocation, so it's time to take that track back a little ways and free up some space to run him into a platform himself. Now I goof up here again and I can't actually lay this track, so I have to redo it once more. Sometimes this game does frustrate me when it comes to the track lane mechanics and what's acceptable and what's not. There we go. I mean, to me that track that I successfully placed looked no different to the track that I was trying to place, so I'm not sure why the game wouldn't let me do it initially, but whatever. There we go, so that's that track now in place, so we can start running the cattle into North Platte and then run from North Platte into Omaha, making money all the while. I mean, look at that, 3.6 million, and it's still just increasing. Now I said I can't actually remember if I purchased this meat industry in North Platte. I think I do. But once we finish laying these trains down, we're going to find out. Yes, we do. Obviously we can't expand it because the city size is slowly level 1. And what we do now is we also expand Rapid Cities platforms, sedation rather, so we can start running a line from Rapid City to Omaha, and again fill that full of trains carrying the meat. But we also need to feed the meat industry in Rapid City by supplying it with cattle. So we just hook up to Reed Fattening up to the north, because that's the nearest one. Try and set the track up properly next time if you want. Thank you. That was a sarcastic swipe at myself, not the game. So now we start feeding cattle into this industry to help it increase its output as much as we can. And I struggle to remember, but I'd be very surprised if we don't also buy that meat industry that's in Rapid City. If we don't already own it, I'm struggling to remember. I don't think we do, but I do think we start buying it. So we need to do a bit of platform rearranging here. So we expand that station out to give us more platforms to play with. And then just run him into a new platform, freeing up one for the train from Rapid City. On reflection, I do think this scenario is actually one of the easiest to complete. I mean, I managed to do it in just over 4 years, which is quite impressive, I think. Once you get your strategy nailed down and you plan ahead, it becomes relatively straightforward. Even on very hard, the AI competitor didn't put up much of a fight and didn't slow us down much at all. Didn't mean to put that waypoint down. Okay, this video is now approaching the 1 hour mark, just past 58 minutes total play time. So I think what I'm going to do, guys, is cut it here. The remainder of this episode I'll run at 4 times normal speed, and then I'll bring it back in just before we hit that final 1000 goal. We've just hit that meat production goal, so it really is now just getting the meat shipped into Omaha as quickly as we can. So yeah, we'll cut it here. I'll speed it up, and then I'll come back in and join you again once we're approaching the end. Okay guys, so just about to finish now. I think we're finishing the month of January actually, or February. There we go, there's the final target hit. Let's go ahead and check out our score. There you go, 4 years, 1 month, 36.8 and a company value of 53 million. Can't better than that. So thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next episode, whatever one that may be. Thanks.